Hello everyone, I am the Appalachian Dread and I am here to help you today. I know you use this video to fall asleep, so before that like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, where are you from and what time are you watching? Now get comfortable and relax. Chapter 4, The Taxi That Never Reaches Its Destination. Rain blurs the city into passing shapes. A cab moves without urgency through quiet streets. The driver never speaks, never looks back. You realize the ride feels endless. Rain beads against the taxi window, each drop stretching into a silver line as the car moves forward. The city outside feels softened, edges rounded by water and night, buildings drifting past like thoughts you do not need to hold. You sit quietly in the back seat, hands resting loosely in your lap, listening to the steady hush of tires on wet asphalt. The taxi smells faintly of fabric and rain. Warm air hums from unseen vents, wrapping around you without insistence. The seat holds your weight perfectly, as if shaped by previous passengers who also arrived tired and willing to be carried. You do not remember flagging the cab down. That realization arrives gently, without alarm. You recall the sidewalk, the rain, the feeling of needing to move without choosing a direction. Then there is the door opening, the quiet interior, the smooth beginning of motion. The details between feel unimportant now, like the space between breaths. The driver's silhouette stays steady behind the wheel. His shoulders rise and fall with calm rhythm. The rearview mirror reflects only darkness and a hint of light, never quite catching his eyes. You feel no need to see his face. Streetlights pass overhead in slow intervals, each one briefly illuminating the cabin before releasing it back into shadow. The light touches your hands, your knees, the curve of the door, then fades. Time stretches itself thin between those moments. You watch the rain instead. It patterns the glass in endless variations, each drop choosing its own path before merging with others and disappearing. The motion feels hypnotic, soothing, like watching something think its way toward rest. The taxi turns corners without signaling, slowing and accelerating with quiet confidence. The city seems to open for it, streets empty and welcoming. No other cars pass. No pedestrians wait at crossings. The night feels reserved, as if holding itself still out of courtesy. You consider giving an address. The thought forms you dissolves. You realize you do not feel lost. The idea of arrival feels distant, unnecessary. Wherever the taxi is going seems acceptable, even comforting. The driver does not ask any questions. His hands remain steady, pale against the dark wheel. The windshield wipers move in a gentle, repetitive arc, clearing just enough rain to maintain forward vision. Their sound blends with the engine's low murmur, creating a soft, mechanical lullaby. You notice the clock on the dashboard. Its numbers glow faintly, though you cannot quite focus on them. When you try, they seem to blur, refusing to settle into meaning. Time, like destination, appears flexible tonight. The taxi passes familiar places that do not feel familiar anymore. A closed cafe where light still glows behind drawn curtains. A bus stop bench slick with rain, empty and shining. A park fence that seems to stretch longer than it should, its shadows deepening between lampposts. You feel suspended between moments. The sensation is not frightening. It feels like floating on calm water, support without effort. Your breathing slows naturally, matching the car's pace. Inhale as it glides, exhale as it turns. At some point, you realize the road is looping. Not sharply, not obviously. Just enough that a building you passed earlier appears again, slightly altered by angle and reflection. The repetition does not bother you. It feels intentional, like circling a thought before letting it go. You wonder how long you have been riding. The question carries no urgency. Your body feels rested, loose, as if time inside the taxi behaves differently than time outside. Muscles soften, thoughts drift. Rain grows heavier, drumming softly against the roof. The sound deepens the quiet rather than breaking it. The driver adjusts speed slightly, respectful of the road, respectful of the moment. You lean your head back against the seat. The fabric is cool, textured, grounding. You close your eyes briefly, then open them again, reassured that the taxi continues forward exactly as before. Nothing changes when you look away. Nothing demands attention. The mirror flickers with passing light. For an instant, you think the driver's gaze might meet yours. But the reflection shifts, revealing only darkness and rain behind. You feel oddly grateful. The city thins further, buildings giving way to longer stretches of road. Fewer lights. More shadow. The rain softens again, becoming fine and whisper. Like, you sense the taxi could drive like this forever. The idea feels peaceful, not endless in a way that traps, but endless in a way that removes pressure. There is no wrong place to be if there is no destination. Your eyelids grow heavy. The movement of the car rocks you gently, almost imperceptibly. The engine hum becomes a steady presence, a companion rather than a sound. The driver remains silent, attentive, content to guide without interaction. You realize you have not felt watched. Despite the closed space, despite the unfamiliar road, there is no sense of scrutiny. The taxi feels neutral, purposeful without intention. It exists to move, and you exist to be moved. Outside, the rain continues to erase sharpness from the world. Inside, the night settles deeper around you. The taxi turns once more, smoothly, confidently, carrying you toward a place that does not need a name, where the next quiet encounter will not involve motion at all, but waiting. As the taxi glides onward through rain-softened streets, you sense that the next presence will not carry you forward, but will be waiting when the ride finally becomes still. Chapter 5, a ghost seen only during storms. Rain thickens the air like a veil. A figure appears briefly, then fades. Witnesses describe the same details. The storm never explains itself. Rain changes the city in ways daylight never admits. It softens edges, blurs distance, and turns familiar streets into reflective corridors that feel borrowed from somewhere else. Tonight, the rain is steady and patient, falling with a consistency that invites attention rather than urgency. You walk slowly, feeling the air cool against your skin, listening as the storm rearranges sound itself. Streetlights glow through the downpour, their halos stretched wide and hazy. Each step you take feels deliberate, cushioned by wet pavement and distant echoes. The world narrows into what you can see and hear, and even those senses feel gently filtered. Rain does that, you think. It edits reality. You are not alone out here, but you feel solitary anyway. Windows glow faintly behind curtains. Cars pass occasionally, their tires whispering across the road. Everything moves with restraint, as though the night prefers things unhurried. Your breathing matches the rhythm of your steps, slow and calm. You notice the figure only because the rain shifts. For a moment, the curtain of falling water seems thinner, as if the storm takes a breath. Beyond it, across the street near the old building with the boarded windows, someone stands. The figure is still upright, framed by rain and light. You do not feel startled. The presence feels expected, like a detail you had not yet noticed. The figure does not move. It does not wave or step forward. It simply remains, partially obscured, as though the rain itself is deciding how much to reveal. You squint gently, not to clarify, but to accept what you are seeing. The outline is human, unmistakably so. Tall, slender. Wrapped in something long and dark that blends into shadow, the rain thickens again, and the figure fades, not vanishes. Fades, as if erased by water rather than distance. The streetlight resumes its full halo, uninterrupted. The space where the figure stood looks ordinary now, empty and unremarkable. You do not rush toward it. You do not check your phone. You simply stand there, letting the moment settle. You remember hearing stories, not dramatic ones. Not whispered warnings or exaggerated legends. Just quiet remarks, exchanged casually, usually during storms like this. Someone once mentioned seeing a person standing near that building, only when it rained. Another spoke of a figure that never appeared on clear nights. The details always matched, though no one ever tried to compare them. You continue walking, the rain tapping steadily against your coat. Your mind does not race, it drifts. You recall how each person described the same stillness, the same lack of urgency. No one ever said the figure approached, no one claimed it followed. It simply appeared, briefly, like punctuation in the storm. As you move, you become aware of how the rain sounds different now. It feels closer, more textured, as though it is carrying something subtle within it. The city's usual background noise has softened, leaving room for quieter observations. You listen with a trying to interpret. Another streetlight ahead flickers gently, its glow pulsing once before stabilizing. Beneath it, the rain gathers more densely, falling in thicker lines. You slow instinctively. Your senses tuned not for danger, but figure appears again. This time, closer. Still across the street, still framed by rain and light. The distance between you feels measured, intentional. The figure's outline is clearer now, though details remain indistinct. You notice the way it stands, weight evenly balanced, posture calm. It does not feel like someone waiting. It feels like someone remaining. Your heart rate stays even. There is no spike of fear, only a gentle awareness that something unusual is sharing the space with you. The rain muffles everything else, creating a pocket of quiet where observation feels enough. You realize something then. The figure does not cast a shadow, not because of the lighting, but because the rain disrupts it. Water breaks the rules shadows rely on. The thought feels important, though you cannot say why. A car passes, headlights sweeping briefly across the street. When the light moves on, the figure is gone. Again, not abruptly. Simply no longer present. The rain resumes its steady fall, unconcerned. You stand beneath the streetlight, letting droplets gather at the edge of your hair, slide down your neck. The space feels unchanged, yet subtly aware, as though it remembers being occupied. You imagine others standing where you are now during other storms, noticing the same absence after presence. The stories were never meant to explain. You understand that now. They were meant to be recognized. You resume walking, your steps unhurried. The rain accompanies you faithfully, neither intensifying nor easing. You feel no need to hurry home. Nights like this feel incomplete if rushed. As you pass the old building, you glance toward the spot again. Nothing stands there now. Only rain, slick pavement, and the quiet hum of the city resting. Yet the space feels marked, as though the storm itself has memory. You wonder, briefly, whether the figure is tied to the building, or to the rain, or to the act of being noticed. The question does not demand an answer. It drifts away, absorbed by the sound of falling water. By the time you reach your door, your clothes are damp and cool. You pause before going inside, listening once more to the rain as it continues its patient work. Somewhere behind you, the city holds its breath, waiting for the next moment the storm decides to reveal what it carries. And as you close the door and leave the rain outside, you sense that the next storm may bring the figure closer still, waiting quietly for another pair of unhurried eyes. Chapter 1. When the city finally falls quiet. Rain washes the streets clean of daytime noise. Neon lights hum softly through the darkness. You feel the city exhale around you. That is when the old stories begin to surface. The city reaches a moment it rarely allows itself to have. The last car passes, tires whispering across wet asphalt. And then even that sound dissolves into rain. You notice the change immediately, not because something loud ends, but because something heavy lifts. The air feels different, lighter, and deeper at the same time, as though the city has finally released a breath it has been holding since morning. Rain continues to fall, steady and patient. Streetlights glow through the mist, their reflections stretching across the pavement like slow, moving thoughts. Neon signs buzz quietly, not demanding attention now, just existing. The buildings stand tall and still, their countless windows darkened or dim, as if the city itself has closed its eyes. You feel the quiet settle around you. It does not arrive suddenly. It drifts in, layer by layer, softening edges, smoothing sharp corners. The absence of sound becomes a presence of its own, full rather than empty. You become aware of small things you usually miss, the rhythm of your breathing, the distant hum of electricity, the gentle hiss of rain touching metal and glass. The city exhales. You sense it in the way the streets seem to widen, in the way the sky feels closer. Without the constant movement of people and machines, the city feels older, more deliberate. It remembers what it was before it was crowded, before it was hurried. Rain washes everything evenly. It carries away fragments of the day, voices, footsteps, arguments, laughter, diluting them until they lose their shape. What remains feels neutral, calm, ready for something else to take its place. You notice how your thoughts begin to slow, without the city's noise pushing against them. They stretch out unhurried. You are not thinking about tomorrow or yesterday. You are simply here, present in this rare stillness, listening without effort. The old stories begin to surface, not as words, not as clear memories, but as impressions. A sense that the city has layers, the one you see in daylight. Layers that only reveal themselves when everything else grows quiet enough. You imagine footsteps from long ago, echoing softly along these same streets. You imagine voices carried by the rain, too gentle to be heard, but persistent all the same. The city does not confirm these thoughts. It does not deny them either. Rain continues its gentle work. It connects everything, the streets, the buildings, the sky, into a single breathing whole. You feel smaller within it, but not insignificant. You feel held. The silence grows comfortable. It does not press in on you. It gives you space. You sense that if you were to speak, your voice would sound too loud, too sharp, and so you do not. You let the quiet remain unbroken. You feel the city watching itself, not watching you, not watching anyone in particular. Just existing in awareness, resting. The feeling is subtle, almost imagined, but it brings a sense of calm curiosity. Lights flicker gently. Not failing, just breathing, adjusting. Reflections ripple across puddles, distorting familiar shapes into something softer, more fluid. The city looks different like this, less rigid, less certain. Your body relaxes, shoulders drop, jaw loosens. You do not realize how tense you were until the quiet makes space for release. The rain seems to encourage this, its steady rhythm inviting you to match it. The old stories do not rush forward. They wait, patient as the rain. They know the city will remain quiet for a while now. There is no need to hurry. You sense that this is when the city remembers itself. Not as traffic and schedules, not as noise and motion, but as place. As ground and structure and shelter. As something that has existed through countless lives like this one. Rain continues to fall. The sound becomes hypnotic, a soft curtain drawn between you and everything else. The world feels smaller, more intimate. You feel safe within the quiet. Not because nothing could happen, but because nothing needs to. The stillness feels intentional, earned after a long day of movement. Your thoughts drift toward rest. They do not cling to anything. They float, light and slow like reflections in water. The city's calm spreads into you, settling where rest belongs. The night deepens. Not darker, just fuller. Midnight feels near, though you are not watching the time. The city does not measure moments now. It simply allows them to pass. Rain remains steady. It does not change pace or volume. It does not demand attention. It supports the quiet, holding it in place. You sense that this is only the beginning. The quiet has opened a door, gently, without sound. Beyond it, other moments wait, softer, stranger, calmer. The city has prepared the way. Your breathing deepens. Each breath aligns more closely with the rhythm of the rain. You feel yourself sinking into the night, comfortable and unafraid. The city stays quiet. It does not rush to wake itself. It lingers here, suspended between days, content to remain still for a little while longer. You remain listening, not for sound, but for feeling. The feeling of being present in a moment that does not need to be explained. Rain continues. The night holds. As the city rests in its rare quiet and the rain keeps falling, you sense that the next sound to arrive will not come from the streets, but from somewhere deeper, already moving softly toward you through the dark. Chapter 5, a voice that speaks only between raindrops. Rain pauses just long enough for something else to speak. The voice never raises itself. It feels familiar without belonging to anyone you know. The rain resumes, protecting the moment. Rain falls in a careful rhythm, steady enough to be trusted, soft enough to disappear into the background of your thoughts. You lie awake, not restless, not alert, simply aware. Midnight has settled fully now, and the night feels wide, stretched open, as though it has made room for something unhurried. You listen without effort. Raindrops meet the roof and windows in a pattern that feels intentional, like breathing slowed to its most natural pace. Each drop arrives, rests, and fades. You notice the spaces between them, not as silence, but as brief moments of holding. The rain pauses, not completely, not long enough to be obvious. Just a hesitation, a thinning of sound so subtle you almost miss it. In that narrow space, something else becomes possible. A voice. It does not rise. It does not interrupt. It slips gently into the pause, shaped by the absence of rain rather than sound itself. You do not hear it with your ears. You feel it form in the quiet, like warmth spreading through still air. The voice speaks only between raindrops. It does not rush to finish before the rain returns. It seems to know the timing exactly, fitting itself into the narrow openings the night provides. You sense no strain, no urgency. The voice feels practiced in patience. You remain still. Your body does not react with tension. Your breathing stays slow even. The voice does not startle you. It feels expected, as though the night has been preparing you for this quiet exchange. The voice never raises itself. It does not need to. It carries no emotion that requires emphasis. The tone feels level, calm, almost intimate. It exists close to your awareness without pressing against it. You do not try to understand the words. They arrive as impressions rather than sentences. Meaning forms without structure, like a thought that has always been there. The voice does not explain itself. It does not introduce itself. The rain resumes. Its return feels protective, like a curtain drawn gently closed. The voice disappears the moment the rain fills the space again, not abruptly, but seamlessly, as if it was never separate from the sound at all. You breathe out slowly. The pause leaves no tension behind. You do not feel loss or confusion. The moment feels complete, even brief. The rain continues, steady and reassuring. You wait, not actively, not expectantly, just open. The night feels attentive, as though it knows you are listening without trying. The rain maintains its rhythm, drop after drop, each one creating the possibility of another pause. The pause comes again, softer this time, shorter. The voice returns with it, slipping into the narrow gap like it belongs there. It does not repeat itself. It does not continue from where it left off. It simply exists again. The voice feels familiar, not like someone you recognize, not like a memory you can place. Familiar in the way your own thoughts feel familiar, even when you do not know where they come from. You feel no need to identify it. The voice speaks without ownership. It does not feel attached to a body or a place. It feels like part of the night itself, borrowing the pauses between raindrops to exist briefly. You sense that it cannot speak when the rain is falling fully. You do not move. Stillness feels important, though you do not know why. The voice does not demand it. The night seems to prefer it. You allow your awareness to stay soft and open. Rain returns again. The voice withdraws instantly, leaving no echo. The rain does not erase the moment. It protects it, sealing it into memory without exposing it to analysis. You feel calm. There is no rush to question what you experienced. The voice did not ask for belief or response. It did not seek confirmation that you heard it. Your thoughts drift gently. They do not fixate. They float, slow and unshaped. The rain supports this state, keeping your awareness anchored while allowing it to wander. Another pause. This one is almost imperceptible, a thinning rather than a silence. The voice appears again, quieter than before, if that is possible. It feels closer, not in space, but in awareness. The voice does not belong to anyone you know. This understanding settles easily. It does not feel like a stranger either. It feels neutral, unclaimed, like something that exists without identity. You accept this without resistance. The rain resumes once more. Each return feels like reassurance. The night seems careful not to leave the voice exposed for too long. The balance feels intentional. You sense that the voice cannot exist alone. It needs the rain, needs the rhythm, needs the contrast of sound and pause. Without rain, there would be no space for it. Without the pause, there would be no voice. Your breathing slows further. Each breath aligns with the rain's rhythm. The pauses between breaths feel similar to the pauses between drops. You begin to understand the pattern without thinking about it. The voice returns briefly. This time it carries a sense of acknowledgement rather than message. You feel seen, not observed, recognized without evaluation. The feeling is gentle and fleeting. Rain fills the space again. The voice disappears, leaving behind warmth rather than absence. You do not feel abandoned. The night feels complete. You feel safe. The voice has never raised itself, never insisted, never lingered longer than allowed. Its restraint feels respectful. The rain continues to guard the boundary. Time stretches. You lose interest in how long this has been happening. The moments blend together, rain and pause, voice and silence. The pattern feels endless, but not tiring. The voice speaks again softly, not with words you can repeat, but with a feeling that settles into you like a memory you did not live. It feels old, calm, and unfinished. The rain resumes, gently closing the moment. You sense that the voice does not want to be held onto. It does not want to be examined. It exists only in passing, only in pause. Your body grows heavier, sleep approaches without pressure. The rain and the voice work together, one holding the world steady, the other brushing awareness lightly before retreating. The pauses grow less frequent, or perhaps your awareness grows softer. The difference no longer matters. The rain feels continuous now, a steady presence that allows rest. You feel content. The voice has not taken anything from you. It has not given anything you must carry. It has simply shared the night briefly. Sleep presses closer. Your thoughts dissolve into sensation. The rain becomes background warmth. The voice fades completely. Not gone, just waiting for another pause, another night. As sleep finally gathers you and the rain continues its careful rhythm, you sense that the voice has not vanished, only learned to wait for the next quiet space where the night allows it to speak again. Chapter 15. Falling asleep while they remain. Rain slows, but never truly stops. The visitors fade into quiet presence. You feel safe enough to let go. Sleep arrives while someone keeps watch. Rain slows, but never truly stops. It changes its rhythm, easing into a gentler pattern that feels less like falling and more like breathing. You notice the shift not with alertness, but with comfort, the way the body notices warmth before it notices cold. The night remains intact, unbroken, stretched wide around you. You lie still. The room feels settled now, as if it has reached a conclusion it does not need to explain. The air carries a softness that was not there before, a quiet reassurance that nothing urgent remains undone. The rain has softened the edges of everything, including thought. The visitors remain, not as distinct presences anymore, not as something you could point to or name. They exist now as awareness woven into the room itself. You do not sense them standing or sitting. They feel distributed, spread gently across the space like shadow or warmth. You breathe slowly. Each inhale feels deeper than the last, each exhale longer. The rain seems to follow your rhythm, or perhaps you follow its. The difference no longer matters. The night feels cooperative, patient. The visitors fade into quiet presence. They no longer feel separate from the room. The walls feel fuller, the darkness more intentional. You are aware that you are not alone, but the awareness no longer asks for attention. It supports rather than interrupts. You feel safe enough to let go. This safety does not arrive suddenly. It builds gradually, layer by layer, reinforced by stillness, by silence, by the absence of threat. The visitors have never moved closer, never tested boundaries. Their restraint has become trust. Rain continues somewhere beyond thought. You hear it, but you do not listen. It exists like a memory you are already drifting away from. The sound blends into the night, becoming texture rather than noise. Your body grows heavy, not trapped, not weighed down, but grounded. The mattress supports you fully now, as if it has learned your shape. Muscles loosen without instruction. The day feels distant, unimportant. The visitors remain attentive, not watching you specifically, but watching the night itself. You sense that their role is not centered on you, but on the space you share. They feel like caretakers of stillness, guardians of quiet transitions. You do not open your eyes. There is nothing you need to see. Seeing would add distance, edges, definition. Rest requires none of these. You remain exactly where you are, suspended between awareness and sleep. The rain slows again, not stopping, never stopping, just easing into a quieter pulse. The night seems pleased with this arrangement. Everything feels aligned, cooperative. Your thoughts soften. They lose structure, becoming impressions that drift through and dissolve. The visitors do not react to this. They seem familiar with the process, comfortable with the gradual unthreading of consciousness. You feel watched over, not observed, not studied. Watched over the way a shoreline watches waves arrive and retreat, knowing the pattern will hold. The presence around you feels steady and patient. Sleep approaches carefully. It does not rush you. It does not pull. It waits for readiness. The visitors do not hurry it either. They seem to understand that rest cannot be forced. The room remains quiet. No creaks, no shifts, no sudden changes. The house feels asleep alongside you, sharing the same slow descent into stillness. The visitors feel integrated into this quiet, not separate from it. Rain continues its gentle persistence. It feels like a promise now rather than weather, a signal that the night remains intact, that nothing will interrupt the moment you are entering. You release another layer of awareness. The world narrows without becoming small. You feel less defined, less contained by thought or name. The visitors remain present but distant, allowing you to drift without attachment. Sleep arrives. It does not announce itself. It simply settles, like darkness settling over land. The visitors do not follow you into it. You sense this clearly. They remain behind, holding the space you leave. You feel no loss. Their presence does not feel necessary anymore, only reassuring. You know they will remain whether you are aware of them or not. The rain becomes a backdrop to dreaming. You are no longer sure if you hear it or remember it. The difference dissolves as sleep deepens. The visitors remain part of the night, part of the quiet vigilance that continues without effort. You rest fully now. Your breathing finds its own rhythm. Your body sinks into comfort. The night holds steady, undisturbed. The visitors keep watch, not because you are vulnerable, but because this is what they do. They remain while others drift, ensuring that stillness stays unbroken. Morning feels far away, not absent, just irrelevant. The night has no intention of rushing toward it. The rain agrees, continuing its gentle, endless fall. You sleep, deeply, safely, unaware of time passing or presence remaining. As sleep holds you and the rain continues its quiet vigil, you sense that even in your deepest rest, something remains awake beside the night, patiently watching until the next silence begins. Chapter 15, Falling Asleep While the Rain Keeps Talking. Poetic summary. Rain continues beyond awareness. The voices become background warmth. You drift without resistance. The night remains awake for you. The rain does not stop when you stop listening. It continues with the same patience it has always had, speaking softly to itself as the night deepens. You lie still, aware of the sound only in passing, as though it belongs to another room, another moment. Your senses loosen their grip, and the world begins to feel distant in a gentle, forgiving way. You notice how little effort it takes now to remain still. Your body has already chosen rest, and your thoughts follow reluctantly at first, then willingly. The rain becomes a texture rather than a sound, a soft fabric laid across the night. It presses nothing, asks nothing, simply exists. Earlier, the voices carried shape and suggestion, brushing close to meaning. Now they flatten into warmth, like embers beneath ash. You do not try to separate them from the rain. You allow them to merge, understanding without thinking that this is how they were always meant to be heard. Your breathing finds a slow rhythm that matches the distant storm. Each inhale feels deeper than the last, each exhale longer, more complete. The air around you feels settled, as though it has also chosen to rest. Nothing shifts suddenly. Everything moves in small, careful ways. The room holds its shape, unchanged and familiar. Shadows remain where they belong. Light, if it exists at all, stays diffused and soft. You sense the boundaries of your space without needing to look, reassured by their quiet presence. The night respects these edges. Thoughts drift through you like leaves on dark water. You do not follow them. You let them pass, watching only briefly before they slip away. There is no urgency in holding on to them. They know where to go without your guidance. The rain keeps talking, but it no longer speaks to you directly. It speaks to the night itself, sharing stories meant for listening without memory. You sense this exchange distantly, like overhearing a conversation from another floor of a building you trust. Your awareness narrows comfortably. The details that once demanded attention now soften into suggestion. The world feels rounded, smoothed of sharp corners. Even time seems to lose its structure, stretching and thinning until it becomes irrelevant. You feel a subtle warmth spread through your limbs, as if rest itself is circulating gently through you. Muscles relax without instruction. Your jaw loosens, your hands rest where they fall. The body understands what the mind no longer needs to manage. The rain's rhythm becomes steady and reassuring. It repeats itself without variation, a promise kept again and again. You find comfort in its predictability, knowing it will continue whether you listen or not. This constancy allows you to let go. The voices, once curious and attentive, now retreat fully into the background. They do not disappear. They become atmosphere. You feel them rather than hear them, a low presence that carries no message, only acknowledgement. Sleep approaches gradually like a tide that does not announce itself. You notice its arrival only by the way everything else begins to fade. The edges of your awareness blur, blending sound and sensation into a single, quiet field. Your thoughts slow further, stretching into long, indistinct shapes. Words lose their importance. Meaning becomes intuitive rather than spoken. You sense rather than think, floating gently between moments without marking their passage. The rain continues its conversation with the dark, unfazed by your drifting attention. It does not require an audience. This independence feels comforting. You are not needed for the night to continue being itself. Your eyelids grow heavy, but you do not fight them. You allow them to close and open again in slow cycles, each time remaining shut a little longer. Darkness gathers without weight, resting softly behind your eyes. You sense the room receding as though it is stepping back to give you space. Sounds become muffled, distant. The rain remains, but it feels farther away, like something heard through layers of sleep. The feeling of being observed, once present and curious, now dissolves completely. You are alone without loneliness, held without restraint. The night no longer watches. It simply exists alongside you. Memories surface briefly, then sink away before forming fully. They carry no emotion, no urgency. They are fragments released gently, allowed to settle wherever they belong. Nothing remains unfinished. The rain's voice becomes almost imagined. You know it is there, but you no longer process it as sound. It blends seamlessly with your breathing, your heartbeat, the quiet internal rhythms of rest. Your body feels heavier, yet more comfortable, as though gravity has adjusted itself to support you more fully. You sink into stillness, supported from every angle. There is no effort required to remain here. Sleep thickens around you, not sudden, not overwhelming. It gathers patiently, layer by layer, dimming the last points of awareness. You feel yourself slipping, but there is no fear in the movement. The night remains awake, but it no longer involves you. It continues its slow patterns beyond your reach, beyond your concern. This separation feels safe, intentional, like being watched over without being disturbed. Your thoughts dissolve into sensation, then into nothing at all. There is no transition to mark, no threshold to cross. You simply stop holding yourself upright in wakefulness and allow rest to carry you. The rain keeps talking somewhere beyond your awareness, telling stories meant only for the dark streets and quiet roofs. You are no longer part of that exchange, and that feels right. As sleep deepens, your breathing becomes shallow and even. The last traces of conscious thought slip away, leaving only a soft, internal quiet. The world narrows to a single, comfortable point. Time loosens completely. Moments no longer connect. There is only the sensation of drifting, of being carried without direction or destination. You accept this movement without resistance. The rain's presence becomes symbolic, rather real, a memory of sound rather than the sound itself. It continues, but you no longer follow it. Your mind has turned inward, settling into rest. Your awareness dims to a faint glow, then to darkness. There is no abrupt end, no sudden silence. Everything fades evenly, smoothly, like lights lowered gradually in an empty room. The night holds steady as you sleep, continuing its quiet patterns without interruption. It does not need you to witness it. It only needs you to rest. In the final moments before sleep fully claims you, there is a sense of completion, like a circle gently closing. Nothing remains unresolved. Nothing waits to be answered. You drift fully now, supported by stillness, carried by the last echoes of rain and warmth. The world continues without you, but you are safe within it, resting deeply. The rain keeps talking long after you have stopped listening, and the night keeps watch, content to let you sleep while it carries the rest of the story forward on its own. As you sleep, the rain continues its quiet conversation, knowing that when you wake, it may have something new to say. Chapter 15, Sleep while the ruins remain awake. Rain continues long after you leave. The abandoned places settle again. Their mysteries remain untouched. Sleep arrives gently, undisturbed. Rain continues after you are gone, falling into places that no longer notice footsteps. You are no longer there to hear how it gathers in corners or slides down fractured walls, but the sound persists anyway. Somewhere behind you, the ruins hum their quiet patterns uninterrupted by observation. You imagine the rain touching the same surface as you passed, soaking into dust and memory alike. The places do not miss you. They simply return to themselves, awake in a way that does not require witnesses or acknowledgement. As you move farther away, your body begins to understand that nothing follows. The sense of awareness that once surrounded you loosens its shape, becoming background rather than focus. You breathe more slowly now, your shoulders easing, your thoughts thinning. Rain becomes a distant texture instead of a guide. You feel the night widen around you, offering space rather than attention. The abandoned places remain behind intact, holding their silence with steady patience, continuing without any need to reach beyond their own boundaries. You find yourself thinking less about what you saw and more about how it felt to leave. There was no urgency, no sudden break. The departure unfolded like closing door that never slammed. That gentleness lingers in you now. Each step you take carries less weight. The rain still falls, but it no longer feels connected to you personally. It belongs to the ruins again, to the empty rooms and corridors that accept it without question. You allow that separation to happen fully, without resistance. Your thoughts drift, uninsured to specific images. You do not replay the details of broken windows or quiet hallways. Instead, you feel the overall calm that followed you out. It settles into your body like warmth, easing muscles you did not realize were tense. The night air feels cooler now, cleaner, as if it has been waiting you to relax. You realize that nothing you encountered asked to be understood. It only asked to be left undisturbed, and you honored that simply by leaving when it was time. Somewhere far behind, rain continues to touch old floors and stairwells. It pools in places where no one will step again. The ruins remain awake, not alert, not restless, but present. Their awareness does not travel. It stays exactly where it belongs. You sense this without effort. The understanding feels complete, like a thought that does not need finishing. You walk on, allowing the distance to grow naturally, trusting that the quiet behind you does not thin or weaken just because you are no longer there. Your pace slows without intention. The path ahead feels safe enough to move through without attention. Rain softens further, becoming a whisper against the world rather than a steady voice. You notice how your breathing aligns with this change. Each inhale feels deeper, each exhale longer. The night encourages rest now, not vigilance. You accept this invitation easily. Your mind no longer scans or listens. It drifts, content to let awareness blur at the edges, knowing nothing requires immediate response. You think briefly of sleep, not as an end, but as a continuation. Just as the ruins remain in their own way, you will rest in yours. The idea comforts you. Sleep does not mean absence. It means effort. You feel ready for that. The experiences you carry do not demand interpretation. They settle quietly, becoming part of the background of your thoughts, like distant rain that no longer needs to be heard to be present. As you prepare to rest, your body remembers stillness. You find a place that feels right without needing explanation. Rain remains audible somewhere, but it does not intrude. It feels like a steady promise rather than a distraction. You allow your weight to sink, your muscles to loosen. The night seems to adjust around you, accommodating this pause. You are no longer moving away or toward anything. You are simply here, supported by the quiet understanding that nothing is required of you now. The ruins behind you do not react to this moment. They continue as they were, holding their shapes, their silence, their subtle awareness. Rain traces familiar paths along their surfaces, repeating patterns that have existed long before you arrived. Their mysteries remain untouched, not because they are guarded, but because they do not need to be opened. You respect that distance even as you drift toward rest. Knowing that something remains unknown does not trouble you. It reassures you that not everything needs resolution. Your thoughts slow further, becoming less distinct. Images blur gently, replaced by sensation. The steady rhythm of rain, now distant, blends with the rhythm of your breathing. Each breath feels like permission to let go a little more. You are not afraid of what you might dream. You sense that sleep will be quiet tonight, unburdened by urgency or fear. The places you left behind do not intrude. They remain where they belong, awake but uninterested in crossing into your rest. As sleep approaches, you notice how safe the darkness feels. It does not hide anything you need to see. It simply holds space. The awareness you once felt watching you has dissolved into neutrality. The world does not observe you now. It allows you to rest without attention. This feels like a gift. You accept it by letting your eyelids grow heavy, by allowing your body to settle fully into stillness, trusting that nothing will interrupt this gentle descent. Rain continues its work elsewhere, touching roofs that no longer shelter, floors that no longer support footsteps. The abandoned places remain unchanged by your absence. They do not grow louder or quieter. They simply persist. You find comfort in this constancy. Knowing that something remains steady allows you to release responsibility. You are no longer part of that environment, and that is exactly as it should be. The separation feels clean, respectful, complete. Your breathing becomes slower still, almost imperceptible. Thoughts fade into soft impressions, then into nothing at all. Sleep arrives not as a sudden shift, but as a gradual dimming, like rain thinning into mist. You feel yourself crossing into rest without resistance. There is no final thought, no need to reflect. The night carries you forward gently, allowing consciousness to loosen its grip. You trust that you will wake later, separate again, while the ruins continue their quiet existence without interruption. Even as you sleep, the world does not pause. Rain falls. Structures stand. Silence holds. You are no longer involved, and that knowledge feels peaceful rather than isolating. Rest wraps around you fully now, undisturbed by memory or expectation. The places you visited remain awake in their own way, but they do not reach for you. They do not need to. You have already left them intact. And now sleep keeps you just as carefully, carrying you into a quiet that feels earned and complete, while the ruins continue listening to the rain. Chapter 7. When someone sits at the foot of the bed, rain softens into a distant lullaby. The mattress shifts without weight. A presence rests without touching. Sleep becomes cautious, but calm. Rain softens into a distant lullaby, no longer tapping sharply, but folding itself into a continuous hush. You lie still, wrapped in blankets that feel heavier in a comforting way, as if they are helping you stay exactly where you are. The room is dim, but not dark enough to feel uncertain. Shadows remain in their places. The night feels patient. Your breathing slows. Each inhale rises gently. Each exhale settles deeper. The sound of rain blends with your breath until the two seem to belong to the same rhythm. The house is quiet now, no longer shifting or listening outward. It feels as though everything has finally chosen rest. Then the mattress changes. Not suddenly. Not enough to startle you. Just a subtle adjustment at the foot of the bed. A soft depression that feels real without feeling heavy. The movement is careful, measured, as if whoever causes it understands the importance of not waking you fully. You do not move. Your body remains relaxed, unguarded. You notice the change the way you notice a shift in temperature or sound, aware without alarm. The rain continues unbroken, steady enough to keep the moment gentle. The presence settles. It does not press down. It does not slide closer. It simply rests at the foot of the bed, occupying space without weight. The sensation feels precise, intentional, respectful. You feel no touch. Nothing brushes your skin. Nothing grips the blankets. The presence keeps its distance, close enough to be known, far enough to remain separate. The balance feels deliberate. Your breathing remains slow. The mattress holds its new shape, unchanged. The presence does not fidget or adjust. It feels content with stillness, as though movement is unnecessary. Rain hums quietly outside. The sound creates a soft barrier between this moment and the rest of the world. Inside the room, time loosens its grip. Minutes stretch without direction. You feel aware, but not alert. Sleep hovers nearby, cautious but calm. It does not rush toward you. It waits, observing the presence as you do. The room feels steady. Walls do not creak. Floors remain silent. The house feels unconcerned, as though this moment is familiar, accepted. You sense no intention. The presence does not watch you. It does not reach out. It feels as though it is resting too, sharing the quiet rather than interrupting it. You breathe out slowly. The mattress responds by holding its shape. The presence remains exactly where it is. The stillness deepens. Rain grows softer. Its sound fades into the background, becoming texture rather than focus. Your thoughts drift, unhurried, gentle. You feel a quiet trust, not because you know what sits there, but because it has chosen restraint. The absence of movement feels like a promise. The present stays. It does not leave as you relax further. It does not grow closer as sleep approaches. It remains balanced at the edge of your awareness. Your body sinks deeper into the bed. Muscles release without instruction. The warmth around you feels complete. The presence does not disturb this comfort. Sleep draws nearer. It brushes against you lightly, careful not to disrupt the arrangement. You feel yourself drifting, but not fully gone. The mattress remains shifted, a reminder that you are not alone, but also not intruded upon. The sensation feels oddly comforting, like shared silence. Rain continues its lullaby. The night feels wide and gentle. The presence remains still, patient, respectful. You feel safe enough to let go. Your breathing slows further. Thoughts soften into impressions, then fade. The presence does not follow you into sleep. It stays at the foot of the bed, holding its place as your awareness dims. The last thing you feel is the steadiness of the mattress and the quiet patience of the night. As sleep finally takes you and the rain continues its soft song, you sense that the presence will remain behind, waiting quietly for another night when rest comes gently enough to share. Chapter 11. A shadow that waits at the crosswalk. Rain blurs the edge between light and dark. A shadow remains when the signal changes. It does not cross or retreat. It only watches. Rain continues to fall with the same unhurried patience it has carried all night. You stand beneath the dim glow of a streetlight, feeling the city pause around you. The crosswalk signal ahead flickers between colors, its soft electronic sound muted by the rain. The street is empty, wide and reflective, stretching out like a quiet river of asphalt. You are not in a hurry. The night has taught you that rushing serves no purpose here. Your breathing slows naturally, sensing with the rhythm of rain tapping against your jacket. The sidewalk, the metal pole beside you. Everything feels gently suspended, as if the city itself is holding its breath. Across the street, Beneath another streetlight, you notice the shadow. It stands just beyond the edge of the light, where brightness fades into a softer darkness. At first, it seems like an ordinary absence of illumination, a trick of rain and reflection. But as you continue to watch, you realize it has shape, not a sharp outline, but a suggestion of one. A presence defined more by stillness than form. The signal changes. The familiar walking symbol glows softly, inviting movement. You remain where you are, not out of fear, but curiosity. Across the street, the shadow does not move. It does not step forward or back. It simply waits. Rainwater flows along the curb in shallow streams, carrying small reflections of red and green light downstream. You follow them with your eyes, grounding yourself in their gentle motion. The shadow remains unmoved, untouched by the change in signal. You feel no alarm. Instead, there is a quiet awareness, the kind that comes when you notice something that has always been there, just unseen. The shadow feels patient, observant. It does not reach toward you. It does not call for attention. It simply exists within the moment, as you do. Cars do not pass. The street remains empty, as if the city has stepped aside to allow this pause to happen uninterrupted. The rain thickens slightly, softening edges even further, blending the world into shades of gray and silver. You shift your weight, feeling the solid reassurance of the ground beneath your feet. The signal continues its cycle, counting down time that no one seems obligated to follow. You become aware of how rarely you stand still like this, how often movement is automatic, unexamined. The shadow seems to understand this. Its stillness feels intentional, almost instructive. It waits not because it must, but because it chooses to. You sense that if it wanted to move, it could. That choice somehow feels important. The light changes again. The soft walking symbol fades, replaced by the steady hand signaling pause. Nothing changes between you. The shadow remains. You remain. Rain slides down the pole beside you, forming droplets that fall at irregular intervals. You count them without meaning to, letting your thoughts drift with their rhythm. The night feels deep here, layered, holding many moments at once. You begin to notice subtle details about the shadow. It is not entirely separate from the darkness around it. Instead, it feels slightly denser, like a place where night has gathered more fully. It absorbs light rather than reflecting it, yet it does not feel heavy. There is a sense of attention coming from it, but not scrutiny. More like acknowledgement, as if it is aware of you in the same quiet way you are aware of it. 2 points of stillness sharing the same space without demand. The rain muffles distant sounds, wrapping the street in a cocoon of white noise. You feel insulated, safe within this small pocket of time. The city feels far away now, even though you know it surrounds you. Another cycle passes. The signal changes again. The invitation to cross returns, gentle and persistent. You consider stepping forward, just to see if anything changes. But something holds you back, not forcefully, just softly. The moment feels complete as it is. You realize that the shadow is not blocking your path. It is not barring the crossing or denying passage. It simply exists independently of your choices. Whether you cross or not seems irrelevant to it. This understanding brings a sense of ease. You do not need to act. You are allowed to wait. The night has made room for that. Rain darkens the fabric of your sleeves, cool against your skin. You feel present in your body, aware of each breath, each small shift. The world feels quieter inside you as well. The shadow seems unchanged by time. It does not fade or sharpen. It does not react to the signals or the rain. It holds its place effortlessly, like something rooted deeper than the surface of the street. You wonder briefly if the shadow has always been here, waiting at this crossing night after night, observed only by those who slow down enough to notice. The thought does not feel unsettling. It feels strangely comforting, the idea of a constant amid movement. The signal changes once more. The street remains empty. The rain continues. You remain. The shadow remains. You sense that this waiting is not endless. It is purposeful in a quiet way. That when it ends, it will do so naturally, without announcement. Gradually, almost imperceptibly, the shadow seems to soften. Not shrinking or moving, but blending more fully with the surrounding darkness. It becomes harder to distinguish where it ends and the night begins. You blink, and for a moment, you are not sure if it is still there. You focus your gaze, searching the space beneath the streetlight across from you. The darkness looks uniform now, unremarkable. The signal changes again, its soft sound clearer now that the moment has shifted. You feel a subtle release, like a held breath finally let go. The crossing feels open again, ordinary. You step forward at last, your foot touching the wet street. The rain welcomes the movement, rippling outward in small disturbances. You cross at an unhurried pace, feeling the simple satisfaction of motion returning. Halfway across, you glance back. The shadow is gone. The space beneath the streetlight is empty, just rain and pavement and reflected glow. There is no sense of absence, only completion. You reach the other side and step onto the sidewalk. The city resumes its quiet presence around you, unchanged, yet subtly different. You feel as though something has been acknowledged, something unseen but understood. As you continue walking, the rain lightens slightly, its sound becoming softer, more distant. The night feels ready to move on, to reveal another quiet moment waiting just ahead. As you walk away from the crossing, you sense that the night is preparing its next stillness, somewhere just beyond the reach of the streetlights. Chapter 6. A voice that sounds like rain itself. Rain blends into something almost melodic. The voice feels woven into the sound. You cannot separate one from the other. Both feel strangely comforting. Rain settles into a steady rhythm, no longer individual drops but a continuous presence that fills the night. It presses gently against the roof, the windows, the spaces between thoughts. You lie quietly, listening without effort, letting the sound pass through you rather than around you. The rain does not demand attention. It simply exists. As you listen, the sound begins to shift. Not louder, not faster, just different. The rain seems to layer itself, one current flowing beneath another. You notice subtle rises and falls, soft bends in the rhythm that feel intentional, almost careful. Your senses tune in without strain, as if this is something you have always known how to hear. That is when the voice emerges. It does not arrive suddenly. There is no clear beginning. Instead, you realize it has been there all along, hidden within the rain's texture. The voice does not sit on top of the sound or interrupt it. It is braided through it, inseparable, like warmth woven into fabric. You cannot tell where the rain ends and the voice begins. The sound carries a gentle shape, a presence that feels aware but not focused on you alone. It does not call out. It does not whisper words. It moves like water moves, flowing around pauses, filling spaces naturally. You feel it more than you hear it. Your breathing remains slow and steady. The room stays dim and familiar. Nothing inside shifts or reacts. The walls remain solid, the bed supportive, the air calm. The voice does not enter the room as a separate thing. It stays within the rain, outside and everywhere at once. You sense no intention behind it. The voice does not want anything from you. It does not try to be understood. It exists with the same quiet purpose as the rain itself, falling because it must, sounding because sound is its nature. This realization brings comfort rather than unease. The rain thickens slightly, or perhaps your awareness does. The voice becomes clearer without becoming distinct. You could not isolate it even if you tried. Every attempt to focus on it dissolves back into the storm. It feels like listening to the ocean at night, where waves blur into a single breathing presence. You let go of the effort to listen closely. As soon as you do, the sound settles into you more deeply. The voice seems closer now, not in distance but in familiarity. It feels old in a way that has nothing to do with age. It feels like something that has always existed, waiting patiently to be noticed. Your thoughts slow further. Each idea drifts apart before connecting to the next. The voice fills the gaps between them, smoothing the edges. You are aware of your body resting, heavy and supported, safe within the quiet boundaries of the room. Outside, the rain continues its endless movement. The voice follows the rain's rhythm perfectly, never lagging, never rushing. When the rain softens, the voice softens. When the rain deepens, the voice deepens. They mirror each other so completely that they feel like two expressions of the same thing. You realize there is no message hidden here. The voice is not speaking to you. It is simply sounding. This makes it easier to accept, easier to relax into. There is no need to respond, no need to remember. The sound asks only that you allow it to exist. Your eyelids grow heavier. The voice feels warmer now, not in temperature but in tone. It carries a steady reassurance, like a familiar presence nearby in the dark. You do not imagine a shape or a source. The voice remains abstract, free of form. The rain brushes against the world outside, washing streets, roofs, leaves, memories. The voice flows with it, touching everything lightly and moving on. You feel connected to the night without leaving your bed, aware of the larger world without feeling small within it. Time stretches thin. Minutes lose their meaning. The sound continues unchanged yet always moving. You sense that this voice does not belong to any single place. It belongs to motion itself, to cycles, to things that repeat without repeating exactly. Your breathing synchronizes with the rain. Inhale, exhale. The voice rises and falls alongside you, not guiding, simply accompanying. The feeling is deeply restful, like floating without drifting away. The room grows quieter inside your mind. External sounds fade until only the rain and its moving voice remain. Even they begin to feel internal, as though the sound exists partly within you now. This does not feel intrusive. It feels natural. You sense that if the rain were to stop, the voice would stop too. Not abruptly, but gently, like a conversation ending because it has run its course. For now, the storm continues, and so does the sound. There is comfort in its reliability. Your body relaxes completely. Muscles soften without instruction. The bed seems to cradle you more closely. The voice maintains its steady presence, never changing enough to wake you, never fading enough to leave you alone. You drift closer to sleep. In this near-dream state, the voice becomes less something you hear and more something you rest within. It surrounds you like darkness surrounds closed eyes, total but gentle. The rain remains constant. The voice remains inseparable. You feel safe in the knowledge that nothing needs to happen next. This moment is complete as it is. The storm does not build toward anything. The voice does not lead anywhere. Your thoughts dissolve into simple awareness, sound, breath, rest. The voice feels like the night itself, expressing existence, not meaning. You do not analyze it. You allow it to pass through you, leaving calm in its wake. Sleep draws closer, unannounced. The rain continues its endless motion, and the voice continues to move with it, patient and steady. You feel yourself sinking comfortably into the space between listening and dreaming. The sound grows softer without growing distant. The voice does not fade, your awareness does. The distinction no longer matters. Rain, voice, and rest blend into a single, soothing experience. You let go completely. As sleep finally takes hold, you sense that the voice will continue wherever the rain falls next, waiting quietly for the moment you listen again. Chapter 9. The urban legend no one tells aloud. Rain muffles voices into private thoughts. Some stories are only shared in silence. You feel it settle into your awareness. It never fully takes shape. Rain moves through the city like a careful listener, absorbing sound before it can fully exist. You walk beneath its steady presence, feeling how it presses gently against your coat, how it softens every edge. The streets feel quieter than they should at this hour, as though the city itself is holding something back. You sense that you are not alone in noticing this. You pass familiar corners that look slightly altered in the rain. Reflections stretch longer than usual across the pavement. Streetlights blur into pale halos, their glow dim but not diminished. Everything feels slowed, not stalled, just unhurried. You adjust your pace without realizing it, matching the rhythm of the night. There is a feeling you cannot name, something hovering just behind your thoughts. It reminds you of a word resting on the tip of your tongue, close but unreachable. You do not try to force it. Some things reveal themselves only when left alone. The city carries stories the way old buildings carry dust, settling into cracks and corners, unnoticed but persistent. You have heard them before, fragments exchanged in half-sentences, glances that linger a moment too long. Stories that end abruptly, with a shrug or a change of subject. The kind people never repeat clearly. You stop at a crosswalk, waiting as the signal glows red. Rain taps against the metal pole beside you. The intersection is empty, no cars passing, no footsteps approaching. The stillness feels intentional, as though it has been arranged for you. In the pause, the feeling grows clearer. It is not a voice, not an image. It is more like an understanding arriving without explanation. The sense that somewhere in this city, something has been noticed, and that noticing is mutual. You feel no fear, only awareness. The light changes, but you remain still for a moment longer, listening. The rain continues steady and patient. You cross when you are ready, your footsteps quiet against the wet pavement. Each step feels deliberate, grounded. You think of the stories again. How they never start at the beginning. How they avoid details. Someone always says they heard it from someone else. Someone who no longer lives here. Someone who refuses to talk about it anymore. The story itself seems to resist being told. As you walk, you pass a small cafe, its windows dark, chairs stacked neatly inside. You imagine conversations that once filled that space, words spoken low and hurried. You imagine a pause falling over a table, the moment when someone realizes they have said too much. The rain would have been falling then, too. Your reflection appears briefly in a storefront window, distorted by streaks of water. You look at yourself and feel strangely unfamiliar, as though you are seeing someone passing through rather than someone who belongs. The sensation fades quickly, leaving a gentle calm in its place. Further down the street, you notice a narrow alley you have walked past many times without thinking. Tonight it feels different, not inviting, but present. The darkness within it is deep, layered, like a folded space. You stop at its entrance, listening to the rain echo softly inside. You do not step in. The story, whatever it is, does not require you to follow. It simply exists, complete without participation. You respect that. Some legends are not meant to be proven. They are meant to linger. You turn away from the alley and continue on, feeling the city shift subtly as you do. The sense of being observed dissolves into something quieter, more distant, like a gaze that has closed its eyes. Your apartment building rises ahead, familiar and solid. You enter the lobby, greeted by the low hum of lights and the faint scent of rain-soaked concrete. The door closes behind you with a soft click, sealing out the night without shutting it away completely. Inside your apartment, the quiet is immediate and comforting. You remove your coat, hanging it carefully. Water drips softly onto the floor for a moment, then stops. The room feels warm, contained. You turn on a lamp, its glow gentle and amber. You sit down and your body settle. The rain continues outside, tapping against the window like a slow, steady heartbeat. You listen to it without trying to interpret it. The feeling from outside lingers, but it has softened, as though it has found a place to rest. You think again of the urban legend, how it never has a name, how it changes depending on who almost tells it. Some say it is about a person. Others insist it is about a place. A few claim it is simply about being noticed when you thought you were alone. None of them are certain. You realize that uncertainty is part of its shape. The story survives by remaining incomplete. It thrives in the spaces between words and the pauses people do not fill. It exists because no one claims to understand it fully. The rain slows slightly, each drop more distinct now. You feel your breathing match its rhythm, deep and unforced. Your thoughts grow less linear, drifting instead of moving forward. The edges of the room seem to blur gently, as though preparing you for rest. Outside, a car passes, its tires whispering against the wet street. The sound fades quickly, leaving the city quiet again. You feel grateful for that brief interruption, a reminder that the world continues, even as it softens. The legend does not follow you inside, or perhaps it does, but only as a feeling, a subtle shift in awareness. It does not demand attention. It does not intrude. It simply exists, like a memory you have not yet formed. You lie down, letting the darkness gather comfortably around you. The lamp remains on, its light low enough to be almost symbolic. The rain continues its gentle vigil outside, guarding the city's secrets. As your eyes grow heavier, you sense that the story is not finished. It is waiting, patient and unhurried, ready to change shape again when the night grows deeper. As sleep draws closer, you understand that the next quiet presence will not be a story at all, but the feeling of being remembered by something that never needed a name. Chapter 10. The last train running too late. Rain coats the tracks in silver reflections. The platform feels abandoned by time. The train arrives without announcement. You sense it carries more than passengers. Rain settles over the station with a patient persistence, smoothing sharp sounds into something gentler. You stand beneath the narrow shelter of the platform roof, listening as droplets strike metal, glass, and concrete in slightly different tones. The night feels stretched thin here, pulled long by waiting. The clock above the platform glows softly, its hands moving, though they seem reluctant to do so. You are not sure how long you have been standing here. Time behaves differently in places meant for departure. The platform feels suspended, neither fully part of the city nor entirely removed from it. The air smells faintly of wet stone and electricity, a clean, quiet scent that settles into your breathing. You shift your weight and feel the vibration of distant rails beneath your feet. It is subtle, more a suggestion than a sensation, like a memory of movement rather than movement itself. The tracks disappear into darkness at both ends, carrying rainwater away in thin, glimmering lines. There are no other passengers nearby. Benches sit empty, their surfaces darkened by moisture. A discarded newspaper clings to the edge of the platform, its pages softened into unreadable shapes. You sense that if anyone had been here earlier, they have already gone, leaving the space carefully empty for you. The silence is not complete. It hums quietly, filled with distant echoes from the city beyond the station walls. Somewhere far away, a car passes, its sound softened by rain. Somewhere else, a door closes. None of it feels close enough to interrupt this moment. You glance again at the clock. The train is late. It has been late for a while now. The idea of schedules feels almost irrelevant, like something remembered from another version of the night. You feel no frustration, only curiosity. Some arrivals take their time for reasons that do not need explaining. Rain runs down the metal column beside you, forming a steady stream that pools briefly at its base before slipping between cracks in the concrete. You follow with your eyes, finding comfort in its predictability. The rain knows exactly where it is going. As you wait, you become aware of a quiet expectation building around you. It is not impatience, but readiness. The feeling that something is allowed to happen now, simply because everything else has slowed enough to make space for it. The lights along the platform flicker once, briefly dimming, then returning to their steady glow. The change is small, but you notice it. The station feels attentive, as though it has acknowledged your presence. You hear the train before you see it. Not the usual roar or rush of wind, but a low, distant vibration that travels through the rails and into your body. It grows gradually, never hurried, approaching at a pace that feels deliberate. The sound blends easily with the rain, becoming part of the night rather than interrupting it. When the headlights finally appear, they are muted by mist and falling rain, two pale circles emerging from the dark. The train moves slowly, almost cautiously. As it glides into the station, there is no announcement, no sudden brightness. Just the quiet arrival of something that was always meant to be here. The doors open with a soft sigh. Warm air spills out briefly, carrying a faint scent of fabric and something older, harder to define. You do not rush forward. There is no need. The train waits. Inside, the car is dimly lit. Rows of seats stretch away, most of them empty. A few figures sit scattered throughout, still and silent, their faces turned toward windows or resting with eyes closed. You cannot quite make out their features, only their presence. They seem calm, unbothered by the lateness of the hour. You step inside, feeling the chain atmosphere immediately. The rain sounds more distant here, as though it belongs to another place now. The floor is dry beneath your feet. The doors close behind you without urgency. You choose a seat near the window and settle in. The fabric is cool, but comfortable. Outside, the platform slides away slowly as the train begins to move again. The station lights blur into elongated streaks, then fade into darkness. The city beyond the tracks feels quieter than before, its outlines softened by rain and motion. Buildings pass like shadows, their windows dark or faintly glowing. You watch without expectation, letting the movement carry your thoughts gently forward. No one speaks. The silence inside the train is companionable, shared. You sense that each passenger is absorbed in their own quiet awareness, not isolated, but not intrusive either. It feels safe to be unnoticed here. The train continues onward, stopping at stations that seem unfamiliar. Some platforms are empty, others barely visible through mist. Doors open and close, and no one enters and no one leaves. The journey feels less about destinations and more about passage. Time stretches again, losing its sharp edges. You feel your breathing slow, sensing with the steady rhythm of the rails. The motion rocks you gently, like water carrying something light but important. You begin to sense that this train is not running late at all. It is running exactly when it should, arriving in moments that are ready to receive it. The idea settles comfortably in your mind, bringing with it a sense of quiet understanding. Outside the window, the rain thickens, streaking across the glass in silver lines. The darkness beyond deepens, but it does not feel empty. It feels full, layered, like a space holding many unspoken things. You rest your head back slightly, allowing your eyes to soften. The presence of the other passengers becomes less distinct, more like a shared atmosphere than individual forms. You are aware of them without focusing on them. The train hums steadily, its sound blending with your thoughts until the two are almost indistinguishable. You feel yourself drifting, not asleep, but close to it, hovering in a gentle in-between state. Somewhere ahead, the tracks continue, shining faintly under the rain. Somewhere behind, the station you left behind settles back into stillness. You are carried forward without effort, without demand. As the train moves deeper into the night, you sense that it is bringing you closer to something quieter still, a place where waiting dissolves completely, and the journey becomes rest. As the train carries you onward, you realize that the next stop is not a place on the map, but the moment when the night finally decides to let you sleep.